everyone, in this video I will show you how to make translucent overlay materials. So this is a new feature added in Unreal Engine 5.1. So here you can see a lot of effects we have created earlier but in a different way. So here we have a Fresnel Effect, force field effect, and then here are some new effects I created for this tutorial. So here we have this fire effect, this ice effect, and an electric effect like this one. And here we can see a water effect, and here we have different types of outline effects. So here we have a really sharp looking outline like this, and here we have another outline, but here if you look at the hands there is no outline here, but here in the hands there is an outline like this. So this will just outline the area, and this here will just outline the entire object, but there won't be any outlines inside the object. And here you can see like a ghost like effect. So if I simulate, you can see it will have the animations, so it will be like a shadow and another effect like that one. So in order to add an overlay, it's really simple. All you have to do is select any mesh you want, and here you can see it has two materials, but we don't really have to change anything here. We can just type in overlay, and here for the overlay material I can just add in our effect like this. So this fire effect, or like our Fresnel effect, or even like the ghost shadow effect like this one. It will still work. And we can also have our shell based outlines, and we will have some nice outlines. So if I just open this up, and I can change the color and get really good outline like this. And we can also have our shield effect. So maybe one disadvantage of this is that if I just mouse over the overlay material, you can see that it says that the mesh will be rendered twice, once with the base material and once with the overlay material. So it will double your poly count. But if you don't really want to use this feature, you can still use almost all the materials from this tutorial in a more traditional way. So if I just select this mesh, you can see that there is no overlay material applied, but it looks identical to this one. So if I just go to the base material here, this one, so I will just open that up, and it looks like this. This is the default material of the mannequin. I have just modified it. So there is just a layer with emissive connected to B and alpha connected to the emissive here. And if I just open it up, it looks like this. So here I can just change the alpha to 0 and the effect won't be there. So it's really easy to control. So if you watch the tutorial, you will end up with something like this. So here in the fire material, so you get something like this. This is really easy to create. So once we create our effect, you can just select all of them and just collapse to nodes, and you can name them, etc. And it will be really easy to right click and copy them to any material you want, and then you can easily add it like this. So almost all of them works like that except for this force, because they are using a shell mesh for their effects. So you won't be able to make these effects in a traditional way, but everything else will work the same. So here this water material, if I select it, I can just add it like that and it will work. Also if I just play the game, I can press E, so I can get this effect. And I can press 2 to change the effect and press E again, so I get a new effect. I can blend that out. See, I can have all of this material added in Blueprint also like this. So I will show you how to make that also. And now here are 4 bonus materials that I created for my Patreons. So here there's a distortion like effect, a poison effect, a force field like electric effect, and a lava effect. So you can download this and also all these materials for $5 from my Patreon, and you will also get to download almost all my previous project files from there. So for $5 you can download everything you see here, and also almost all my previous project files that I have created. And if you are already my patron, thank you very much for supporting me there. So first we will create a Fresnel effect. So for that, right click, then material, I will call this M_Fresnel, then open it up. Then here we can change this to either translucent or additive. We can use translucent if you also want a darker color in addition to a lighter color, but if you just want to make it brighter, we can just use additive, which is a bit more cheaper than the translucent. Or you can use modulative if you want it to just be darker and not be brighter. So since our Fresnel effect is just making the mesh a bit more brighter, we can just use additive. It is cheaper, and then we can change this shading model to unlight. So we get this opacity. Now we can get a Fresnel node. This will create like a rim light effect. So if I connect that to here, now press and hold V and click. So we get this vector node. We can call this color, and now we can give a bright color. So now it is visible. Since it is additive, the darker color won't be visible. So if it is darker, it won't be visible. But if I set this to modulative, then the darker color will be visible. So if I connect this to the MC, you can see that the darker portion is more visible than the lighter portion. And if I set this to translucent, then it will be a bit more expensive, but both lighter and darker part will be visible. So we just need additive here, like this. Now we can create a scalar parameter by pressing and holding E and clicking, and we can call this exponent, and we can set this value to like 3 or something like that, and connect this to the exponent. So by increasing this value, we can make this rim light sharper. So if I give a value of 10, it will be sharper, like this. Here we only want like a value of like 5. So if I click apply and create an instance from it, I can just go here and select this mesh and type in overlay and just add the Fresnel effect. So this is our Fresnel effect. Now I can increase the color to like 20 or something like that. So it will look like this. And we can also change the color to pink. And now to get the line going up and down effect, we can use something called pre-skinned position. So this will give us a local position of the mesh. And now we can just drag and type in mask and then component mask. We only need the B value since it is the C axis, the up and down axis. So now if we just divide this by 300 and connect this to the opacity or something like that. So this won't work with the pixel node. That's why we are having an error. But we can fix this by using a vertex interpolator. This will convert this from the vertex shader to the pixel shader. So now we can connect this to the opacity. And here you can see that only the top part is visible because it is creating a gradient from the bottom of the sphere to the top of the sphere. The value at the top will be 1 and below will be 0. That's why only the top is visible. Now we can add to this a time value, and we can control the speed of the time by getting a multiply and connecting that to the add, and get a scalar parameter again and change this to speed and give a value of 1 for now. Now get a sine node. So it will create a wave like effect. Since this sine wave will oscillate between -1 and 1, we need to convert that to 0 to 1. In order to do that, we can just add 1 to it. So -1 will be 0 and 1 will be 2. Now if you multiply this by 0.5, the 0 will still be 0, but 2 will be 1. So we convert this from -1 to 1 to 0 to 1. And now we can multiply it with this Fresnel. And now connect this to the opacity. And we get an effect like this. We can also use a different direction if you want a different effect. So we can use the green direction and get something like this. Or we can create a blur, get an effect like this. Can also change this to like 15 or something like that. And we can change the base reflect to 0, 1. and we get an effect like this. So you can play around with all of these values in order to get the effect you want. And here, if you want to copy this to another material, an easy way to do that is by selecting all of this, then collapsing this to a node. Now here we can rename the first one to MC and the second one to opacity, like this, and click apply. So we get our first effect. Now we will create our second force field effect. So in order to do that, we can just duplicate this and change this to shield, then open it up. So here this effect is really simple, but here you can see that the effect is happening over the material, so like a shell effect. So if you want that, I will show you how to do that too. So we can just use this grid texture for now, but you can use whatever texture you want. So I will just use this grid texture and I will bring that in, and I can just cut that and open this up. And here in the Fresnel, I can bring it here like this. And here, if I get a multiply and connect this to the green channel, you can see the grid here. So we can just multiply the grid with the Fresnel. And now press and hold U and click. So we get texture coordinate. Now get a multiply node. So we can resize our texture. And now change this value to like 5 or something like that. So we get a grid like this. Now if we go to the material and create an instance, and we can add it here like this. Now we can just select this and change all the values. We may also need to create a scalar parameter for tiling like this and give value of 1 and click apply. Now we can change the size of the pattern. So if you want a shell effect, we can go to the shield again, and here we can go back for the world position and we can type in vertex normal. So these are the normals of your mesh. So we can get a multiply and connect this to the world position and get a scalar parameter, and we can call this size, and then we can connect here and give a value of 1. So now you can see that it is happening outside the mesh. So we can increase the size like this if you want. We can also do one more thing. We can go here for the opacity, or we can just also copy this, add this to an output here like WPO, and we can connect it like this. Also we can get a multiply and connect this here and connect this to the opacity. Now get a scalar parameter and call this opacity. So now we can control the overall opacity of the effect with this parameter. You can change this in blueprint. So you can fade in and fade out the effect. So 1 will be fully visible and 0 it will be invisible. So that's it for this effect. It's really easy to create that. So if I change the opacity, you can fade in and fade out the effect. So now we will create the fire effect, this one. So in order to do that, we can just duplicate the shield and we can call this m_fire, then open it up, and we can connect the world position offset here like this. We can open this up, and here we don't really want this pre-skinned local position for this one, so we can just disconnect that and bring it down here. And here we also don't need this one, so I will just delete that also. And now here with the Fresnel, so here we need a new node called motion forward chaos, but if you type in motion forward chaos, I don't think you can get it from here. So there are two ways to get that. So one way is to type in chaos, then get normal from height map image chaos, then open it up, then go inside it, and we can just copy this and just paste it here like this one. And now we can connect this to the UV. We can get a new scalar parameter called speed and connect this to the speed here. And divisor will be the amount of this effect or the intensity of this effect. So in order to get that, create a scalar parameter by pressing and holding S and clicking and type in divisor, and the default value is 0.25. We can give that here. So here we need a texture here. So for this texture we can go to the starter content and go to the textures. Here we can get this fire texture and bring that in like this. And we cannot connect this here because this is not a texture object. Luckily we can right click and convert this to a texture object like this. So there is some bug with this one, so I will just copy that and paste it here, and now connect it here like this. And now we only need the green channel, so mask, component mask, then we will untick the R, and now we can connect this here like this. So here we are getting something like this, because if you open up the motion for chaos, you can see that it has a lot of panels. So one is panning the texture in the up direction, one is in the down direction, one is in the right direction, and one is in the left direction. So we are panning this one texture in the 4 direction. So that's why we are getting this noisy type effect. So once we multiply that with our rim light effect, we get something like this. So now if I click apply and create an instance from this one and add this here, we get something like this. We can bring it down, and here we can change the color to like some orange color or something like that. We can also increase the intensity and click OK. And here we can go to the exponent and kind of reduce it. So we get something like this. And then we can also increase the size. Maybe we should just increase the value like this. So now we have our fire effect. We can also increase the speed. So that's it for the fire effect. So now we will create the ice effect. So for that, right click, then material, and we can call it m_ice. Then open it up. Then change this to additive and change this to unlit. And here we can get a Fresnel again, and we can give this a value of 0.5. Now we can get a vector parameter, and we can call this color. Then we can give it like a blue color like this and connect this to the MC color. Now we need to get 2 textures for this, so we can go to the content browser and go to starter content and texture. Now we can get this water texture and this smoke texture, and we can bring that in. We can multiply the smoke texture with our color and connect to the MEC, so it looks like this. But if we look at the ice material, you can see some distortions happening like this. So we need to create that, and for that we can get something called a reflection vector. And here we can connect this to here because this is a 3 vector and UVs are 2 vectors. So we can just mask this like this, and now connect this and click apply. Now if we create an instance and add this to the overlay, we get something like this. Now we need to distort this. So in order to do that, we can add this normal to the reflection vector like this. So it is kind of distorting. Now we can get a UV coordinate and multiply that with 1, and now get a panel and give a value of 0.1 here like this and connect it here and click apply. So now we can see some distortions happening, but it is going upwards. So we can just give a value of negative 0.1 here. So it will go downwards. So we get something like this now. And now we can go to the starter content again, because we need one more texture, which is this cobblestone, and we can bring that in. So here, if I round this value, and if I preview this, you can see we get all of these things like this. But if I get an add node, and now if I manually control this value, we can get something like this. And after we 1 minus this, and if I preview this, we can get this white background and dark spots. Now we can increase this value. So we can get something like this. So this is what we want. Now here we can mask this and get a UV coordinate like this and get a multiply and connect this here and connect this here. So now we can control the tiling of this one by changing this value. We can change this value to like 5. So there's a lot of them. Or we can change this to like 2. And now if we just increase the value again, 0.2 or 0.15, we will get something like this. So we can change this value to like 0.5 or 0.8 to get these cracks. And now we can multiply this with the Fresnel and connect this to the opacity and click apply. So now you can see that the Fresnel isn't showing. So we can just add this with the Fresnel. So both of them will be visible. And maybe change the tiling to like 1.5 also. Now click apply. Now we get something like this. Now we can get the freezing effect like this one. So in order to do that, I just delete this. And now here we can also distort these cracks. So if I get an add node and connect this here and connect this here, now you can see that there is too much distortions happening. So in order to control the amount of distortion, we can get a multiply and connect this here, and now get a scalar parameter, and we can call this distortion amount. And now by controlling this value, we can control the amount of distortions. So now if we go to the ice material and go to the instance and change the distortion amount, you can get a lot of distortions like this. So you can even change the color to whatever that works. And now we can create the ice spikes. For that, we can go back to our material, and that is done using world position offset. So like earlier, we can get the vertex normals. So if I just get a 1 for the opacity and connect this to the emissive color and stop previewing this. So here you can see the values like pink, green, cyan, blue, etc. And here this value is black because we are using additive colors. But if I change this to translucent, you can see all the colors. So this is a color code for the direction the normals are facing. If the normals are facing up, it will be blue, because here you can see that the C is blue, and here you can see Y is green, and the opposite side is black. But this is -1 for the Y, and here this is -1 for B. because this is 1 for B and this is negative 1 for B. And we want the I spikes to go downwards. So we want negative 1 for B. So we will do that. But before that, we will change this back to additive and we will connect everything back. And now first we will just increase the overall shell size. So we can just get a multiply and get a scalar parameter, and we can call this shell size and maybe give a value of 2 for this. And now we can just mask this and only get the B, but since we need the negative B, we can just multiply this by -1. So the -1 will become 1 and the 1 will become -1. Now if we saturate this value will be clamped between 0 and 1. So we are ignoring the -1, which is in the up direction now, since we multiply that by -1. Now we can get a 3 vector by pressing and holding 3 and clicking, and we can give a value of -1 for B here, and we can multiply that with this one. So our icicles will go downwards. So this will enable the icicles to go downwards, and this will lock the movement only to the downward facing faces. Now we can get another multiply, and now we can name this drop height, and we can give a value of 20 here and connect this here, and we can add it with this one. And now here we can multiply this drop height by a purling noise. So we can go to the starter content and get the purling noise texture and get a UV coordinate, get a multiply, then get a scalar parameter and call this noise styling, and we can give a value of 2 here and connect this here and connect this here and connect the red channel to the B. Now if we connect the world position offset here and click apply, so now you can have your ice spikes, and it will only happen to faces that are facing downwards. Now you can change the shell size like this or reduce it to get effects like this, or you can increase the noise styling, reduce it, whichever works for you. You can also increase the drop height, the distortion amount. So that's it for the ice material. Now we will create the electric effect like this one. So in order to do that, right click, then material and m_electric, then open this up, and now set this to additive and set the shading model to unlit. And for our electric material, we need these nodes from the fire material, so the exponent, the Fresnel, the motion wave chaos, etc. So we can just copy that and paste it here, and here instead of multiply we will add our Fresnel with the motion for wave chaos, and we will connect that to the opacity. Now we will get a vector parameter and we can call this color, and we can give it a bright yellow color like this one and connect this to the MC color. So it looks like this, but here this texture won't work for this. For this we need the purling noise. So get the purling noise texture. So it looks like this right now. Now here for the multiply, we can delete the tiling, and now press and hold 2 and click. So we get this 2 vector. Now connect this to the B, and for X we will give a value of 0.1, and for Y we will give a value of 5. So now we get something like this, and here for the exponent we will give a value of 10, and for the base reflect we will give a value of 0. Now we will just bring it back here like this. Now we can get a subtract node and also a power node, Now saturate this so it won't go above 1 or below 0, and connect this back to the add. Now we will have something like this. And for the subtract, we can give a value of 1.25 because we don't really want most of the noise texture. So if I preview that from the power, we cannot really see anything, but that's okay. We will increase the divisor to like 0.5. So now you can see these streaks going like this. And for power, we can give a value of 1.5. So we get something like this. Now I will stop previewing. So now we have something like this. Now we need to create a spiky effect. So for that we can get a vertex normal, multiply that like before and get a scalar parameter, and this can be our shell size. Then give a value of 1 for this one, and now we can bring it down and get add and connect this here and get 2 multiplies and connect this here and connect this to the saturate and connect this here, and now press and hold V and click, so we get this vector parameter and we can call this direction. So this will allow us to control the direction where the spikes happen. So there is RGB, so you can see those corresponds to X, Y and Z here. So it will help us to control which way we want our spikes to happen. Right now we just need the B value. I now connect this here. And now we also need to control the height of the spikes like we did before with the eyes. So in order to do that, we can also get another multiply and we can get a scalar parameter and we can call this height. This will control the overall height of our spikes. Now connect this here and connect this here and connect this to the world position. Now click apply. Now we can create an instance from it and add it here. And now if I just change the height value to like 20 or something like that, or like 50, so here you can see the spikes are trying to go up like this. So now with the direction we can control which way our spikes has to go like this, like this. Also we can control the shell size like this if you want, or like this. So one more thing we can do here is that we can go to the material. So here you can see this subtract and this power. If you get a variable and call this a sub, and now connect that there and apply it. Now we can increase this value and we can get an effect like this. So here we are getting that lines because we are just non-uniformly scaling the text. So here we are just stretching it in the X and Y coordinate with different values. That's why we are getting those lines from this texture like this. So here if I just preview this saturate, you can see that we are actually getting lines instead of this spots. So if I just change this value to like 5, we will get this spots again. But if I change this value to like 0.1 now, we will get the lines going downwards like this. So now if I click apply, we get a different look like this. So one thing you could do is that you can get a lure and connect this here and duplicate this and change this value to like 0.1 and 5 and get a scalar parameter and call it lure. Now we can lure this between these two types of stretching So if I give a value of 0.5 here, it will be really interesting looking like this. Now we can go to the lerp and change the value, and we can get some interesting looking effects. So we can also change the height like this. So we get an effect like this. So that's it for the electric effect. So now we will create the water effect. So for that, right click, then material, then m_water, then open it up. Here we will set this to unlit, and the blend mode should be opaque. We don't really want translucent material for this since it is fully opaque. Now here we also need the motion forward chaos. So just copy all of this and paste. Now connect this to the MC color, and here search for water and get this water texture, this one from the starter content. And now get a UV coordinate and connect this here. So now we will get something like this. Now click apply, and now we will create an instance and we will add that here. But now you can see that since it is opaque, it is invisible over the mesh. So in order to fix that, we can just increase the shell size like before. So get the vertex normal and multiply that by 1 and connect this to the world position offset. So now it will be visible on top of the mesh because we increase the size of the shell. But now you can see that this is not what we want. You can see all the detail of the mesh and everything like that. We don't really want that. So in order to fix that, we can go to the water material, and here instead of the texture coordinate, we can just delete both of these. Now here we can get a screen aligned pixel to pixel UV. So this will map the texture based on the screen location. So if I just connect this here, now if I move, you can see that it looks like this. Now if I click apply, here you can see it looks flat, not like before. So this is what we want. So here we can just connect this here and change this value to like 300, and now click apply. So now we get something like this. Now we can bring it down and we can bring it like this. Now get a lerp. Now connect this to the alpha and connect this to the MSC color. Now get a vector parameter and call it C1 for color 1, and get another one and call it C2 for color 2. So now for this one we will give a light blue color, and for the other one we will give a dark blue color. These values, maybe just rearrange that so you can get the darker one as the background. Now we need to round this value, so the values are either 0 or 1. If it is 0.2 it will be 0, and if it is 0.7 it will be 1. And so with the round node, every value above 0.5 will be rounded to 1, and every value below 0.5 will be rounded to 0. So it will round to the next integer. So since we are working from 0 to 1, that's all we care about right now, but it can also round to 2, 3, etc. So now if we connect this to the alpha, we get something like this, but this is not what we want. We need to increase the size of this spot. So we can get an add node and connect this here and connect this to here. But since we are connecting this to an alpha, we can just saturate this so this value won't go above 1 or below 0, since this alpha only accepts value from 0 to 1. Now connect that here, and now we can control the add, and now here for the add we can give a value of 0.46, So we get something like this. Now if I click apply, we get a water effect like this. We can open the instance. And here for C2, we can give the brighter color or the darker color. And for C1, we will give the brighter color. So we get something like this. Now we can get another layer and connect this to 0 and connect this to the MSC. And we can get another vector parameter and call this C3. And for this, we can give like a white value with 5 in the value. So it will be really white. And now get a Fresnel and connect this to the alpha. And click apply. And it looks like this. So we need to change the base reflect to 0. So it will look like a rim light only. So like this. This is what we want. Now here we can also distort this value with another motion forward chaos. So we can just duplicate this and connect this here and add this to this one. And for this we can type in water and get the water normal, and we can just mask this like before and connect this to the art. So this will just distort water texture. We can also control the distortion amount like this with this multiply. So we can get a parameter and call this distortion amount. This will allow us to control the distortion. So click apply and increase the distortion. So it kind of looks like this. Now we can switch these colors, whatever you like, and get an effect like this. Now we can also give it some movement based on the texture. So for that, we can go here, we can get an add and connect this here, get a multiply and connect this to the add here and connect this to the world position. Now from the G value, we can connect this here and change this value to like 20 or something like that. If I click apply, it's something like this. This is probably not what you want. So in order to fix that, we can multiply this value with the vertex normal before we add it to the vertex normal again. So it will grow in all directions. And now we can get a scalar parameter and we can call this height like before and connect this here and click apply. And now if we just change the height to like 15 or something like that, we get this water like effect. So this effect you don't really have to add as overlay because this is covering all part of the mesh. So we can just add this to the normal mesh like this and it will still work. So there is that. We can also add some sine waves to the water like before. So for that we can go to our shell material and we can copy our sine effect. This one we created for the up and down effect like this one. We can just copy that, all of it, and we can bring it here. And we can again add this with this one and get a multiply and connect that to the vertex normal and connect that here. We need to multiply this again and we can call this wave amount and connect this here and connect this to the add and now connect this to the world position offset. Now we will get another error because this cannot be connected to the world position offset. So this is in the pixel shader. So we can just remove that and connect it like this. And now click apply. And now for the wave amount, I will give a value of 10 or something like that. Or 2, 5. And we can also change the speed to like 0.3 or something like that. So here it is just creating this wave pattern again, but we are just using that to change the position of the vertex of the mesh. So that's why we are getting this growth effect like this. We can also reduce the height a little bit, or like 1 or something like that. I think we can change the wave amount to like 2. So we get something like this. So that's it for the water material. So now we will create our shell based effects. So these are easy to create. So right click, then create material and call this M underscore outline shell, then open it up and change this to mask, then change this to unlit. We also need a two-sided material for this, and now get a two-sided node. So now if I connect a two-sided node to the emissive, if I go into the mesh, you can see that the inside is black and the outside is white. But if I 1 minus this and connect this to the emissive, you can see that the outside is black and the inside is white. So for this outline, we need the outside to be invisible and the inside to be visible. So for that, we can just connect this 1 minus to the opacity mask and we can get a vector parameter and call this color and connect this here and give it whatever color you like. So now we get something like this. And now if I just create an instance and add it to the overlay like this, you don't really see much because we need to increase the size of the mesh. So for that we can get the vertex normal like before and get a multiply and get a scalar parameter, and this time we can call this size and give a value of 1 and connect this to the world position offset and click apply. So now you get an outline like this, and we can increase the size or the color, and here you can get an outline like this. And if you want to reduce the inner outlines a bit more, you can go to the shell material again, and here for the two-sided node we can get a multiply and connect this here to the opacity mask, then get a Fresnel and round this. So if I just preview this, you can see that the shell has a really white color and the inside has a black color. So if we connect this to the two-sided node, and here we also need to 1 minus this, so we will invert the effect. And if I just stop previewing, click up and click apply, see now we have a really nice outline effect like this, and we can change the color, etc. And this shell based outlines won't really act weird with distance, unlike the post process based outlines. So I can zoom in and zoom out and it won't really change, and these are really nice and clean. Now to create these three effects, we can right click, then create a new material, and I will call this M underscore shadow, then open it up. Then here we need to make this translucent or modulative. I'm just going to make it translucent for now and change the shading model to unlit. And here for the opacity we can get a scene texture node and change this to custom depth. So here if you look at the ghost material, you can see that it is not rendering above the mesh, and from every direction we look we can see that the original mesh is visible. It is kind of looking like a shadow from every direction. So in order to create this effect we need to add our mesh to the custom depth. So we go here and type in custom depth and render custom depth path. And here you can see that custom depth stencil value. You can set this value to like any value from 0 to 255. So you can create unique IDs for each mesh if you are using the custom depth for something else. And if you are having any overlap issues, then you can use a stencil value to isolate that out. So here we are just going to use the custom depth. Now we will get a vector parameter and we will call this color. And now we can change this to whatever color we want, like this. Here we can subtract this from the scene texture. So duplicate this and type in scene depth and connect this to subtract. Now mask this, so we only need the R value. Now we can seal this, so this value is either 0 or 1. Now saturate this, because this seal will also round to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. Not just 1 or 0. So we need to clamp that between 0 and 1. That's what this saturate is doing. Now if I connect this to the opacity and click apply, and here we can also bring in our vertex normal size control and paste that and connect this here and change this value to like 3 for now and click apply. Now if I create an instance from this one, and here if I search for overlay and add this one, you can see we get this really nice outlines. And if I open this up and if I just reduce the size like this, we get this really nice looking outlines. We don't really even have to use a Fresnel node for this one. But here you can see that the arms are not outlined when it is inside the body, but it's really a nice outline. So you can set this to various color. So watch what happens if I just select the mesh and type in custom depth. And if I remove this from custom depth, it will render all over it. But if I add it to the custom depth, it won't render over it. So if I select this and render this to custom depth, see the outline disappear from that. So in order to prevent that, you can also use the custom depth stencil value. But for now, this will work for us. So this is the other outline effect. So in this one, I will also show you how to make the shadow effect. So in order to do that, we can go to our water material and we can just select our sign like this. So this will create the movement. And here we can bring it here. And we can multiply this as this one and multiply it with here, and now also multiply this with the overall size. So create a scalar parameter and we can call this overall size. So this will create the waving effect like in the water before, but now we can multiply with this a direction vector also. So get a multiply, then press and hold V and click and name this direction. So we can control which direction the waving happens. And now we can add this back into the world position offset like this. Now I can increase the overall size to 10. And now if I change the direction to 1, it will wave like this. Or if I change it to like 1 for green, it will do that. So like this. Now here, if you don't really want this stretching, you can go to the material. So here, if you don't really want the stretching, you can go to the material and here just remove this multiply. So we will just move just in the direction and not in the vertex normal direction. So only the direction vector we provide will be used for the movement. So now click apply. So now we get something like this. If I give 1 here, we get a value like this. Also here you can see that it is only having the positive value. That is because of this add and the multiply we did before. We don't really want that. Here we also want the negative value for the sign. So connect that. Then we will get this back and forth movement like this. And now here you can see that the legs are also waving. If you want to prevent that, here with the B, we can just duplicate this and connect the B here, and this will create a gradient. So this B mask will create a gradient from bottom to top. So if we just multiply that with the sign value, then the bottom half will have a value of 0. So then the bottom half will have a value of 0, so it won't move at all. And the top half will have a value of 1, so it will move. So now we have movement like this. If you select this and type in vertex interpolate, we can directly connect this to the MC color and see the gradient like this one here. Or if I select this, you can see the gradient. So we can also use the gradient for an opacity mask, so the feet will be faded out. So if we multiply this custom depth mask with the top to bottom gradient and connect this to the opacity, we will get this. So one more thing we can do is that we can just remove this and remove all of this and get a lurk node and get a world position node. Then subtract this from an actor position node like this and connect this here and connect this to the B value. And if we click apply, we get something like this. And if we control the opacity, so now here if I just get a scalar parameter and call this lurk and connect this here and click apply, you can change the value to black. And if I change the lurk, we can grow it and shrink it like this. And now if I press simulate, you can see it is following the animation and everything like that. So that's it for the shell effects. So now in order to add the effects using the blueprint and button press, we can go to the third person character, and here I will get an R keyboard event, and we can get the mesh for our reference, and we can also drag from the R and create dynamic material instance. And here we can just promote this to a variable, and I will call this mat effects and compile. So we can add our material here. So now I will just add the fire instance into this like this. And now we can also create an instance reference. So if you want to control the opacity value, so now we can drag from this and we can promote this to a variable, and we can go to mat instance, because now if I compile, I can drag this and type in set scalar parameter value, and we can type in alpha like this here, and we can set this value. So this alpha is the alpha inside the, we have to name that opacity because this is the opacity value. So if you type in opacity here, we can change this value as we please. You can do that after we create a dynamic material instance from our original material like this, or you can use a timeline like this to change the value. So here the value goes from 0 to 1. You can chart the timeline and fade the value between 0 and 1 if you want. So I will just remove this right now. And now in order to add the overlay material, we can get the mesh, and now we can get a flip top here. So on the first press, we will create the dynamic material instance and everything like that. And here we can drag and type in overlay and set overlay material and connect this to here and connect this to here. And on the second press of R, this B will fire. So we can drag the mesh again and type in set overlay material, and this time we will leave this as empty. So on the second press we won't be rendering the overlay material again. So now if I press play and press R, you can see the fire material, and if I press R again, it is gone. And if you want to blend that nicely, you can use the timeline. And here if you want to set a lot of material, you can just select the material effects and change this to an array. Now we will get an error, so disconnect that and now compile, and we can add a lot of different effects. So I will add the fire, the Fresnel, the water. So this for right now, and now I will just get a copy, and depending on the index value you can get different results. So I will just connect this index here. So this is what I created. So here if I go here, you can see that I am setting the different index with different key presses. So I have like 3 materials here. So if I just compile and press play, and now if I press R, we get this water effect, and I will remove that. Now if I press 1 and press R, I will get the fire effect, and if I press 2 and R, I will get the Fresnel effect. So you can cycle through using the array. So I think that's it for the tutorial, guys. Thank you very much for watching.